Well, hello, good morning, afternoon, evening, middle of the night. I don't know what it is where you're at. My name is Andy Lithgow, and I'm here on the Fishin' and Fun podcast brought to you by Telemedia. And we'll tell you at the end of the segment on how to go and reach all that stuff if you're interested in sending us an email or something like that. That'd be awesome. I would love to. I think since it's the very first podcast that we're doing, I would love to cover kind of just a couple things like how I got started, how I found the love of the outdoors. Like I said, it's called the Fishin' and Fun podcast. So anything that's fun and outdoors, especially fishing, I've always just been a huge fan. It's been something that's come real natural to me. I've just always enjoyed it. I teach fly fishing. That's just part of my life, So I hope that I reach out to a whole bunch of those people in that type scenario that enjoy fishing and fun and outdoor stuff. And I don't care if it's just riding four-wheelers or going to your local sand dunes or whatever it is. It doesn't matter to me. But I would like to start off with my history and kind of where I came about, and it's probably fairly similar to a whole bunch of people out there. I started out years ago when I was just a kid. I think I got my first BB gun. I believe it was my 7th birthday, the old Red Ryder BB gun. And I think I'm real confident that it was my 7th birthday. It possibly could have been my 8th, but I think it was my 7th birthday. And it was amazing. I'll never forget that. The feeling of seeing that thing sitting there. It came at I believe, if I remember correctly, I got it at Christmas time. It was just awesome. It was one of the best presents that I got that year from Santa. It was fantastic. And I'll never forget being able to I'd go get my BB gun, and where we lived at down, we're up here broadcasting from up in northern Utah. And where I lived at the time, I could go out and there was just acres and acres and acres of fields, just tons of fields all over the place. And I could go and wander around through those fields for hours and just get lost, out there on purpose. And I would go and get my BB gun, and we had Brittany Spaniels that we bred at that time, and I would go get my good old dog Duke and my 25-foot lead, and we'd head out and we'd go check out. Oh, looks like we got a visitor. Tucker's trying to come in. But we would go and head out, and me and old Duke, and we'd go out and go do our thing and go wander through the field. And I remember I fell in love with watching that dog work that field and do his thing back and forth was absolutely amazing. I really enjoyed that. That was, I had a BB gun. What was I going to do? We'd jump at pheasants all the time. I didn't have a chance. It was just neat to watch the dog do his thing and then just watch the pheasants jump up. I thought that was really cool. And it's addicting. Go ask guys that run dogs for a living, just doing nothing but running hunts on birds. And it's addicting. They get addicted to it. It's not just an adrenaline rush. It's really fun to watch the dogs work and do their thing. It's awesome. So that got me really hooked on going outside and being outdoors and, having the old BB gun, the Red Ryder at hand. And it opened up a whole new world for me. It kept me... there was plenty of problems to go take part in as far as trouble there was to be had. And I wasn't interested in any of that. I think that a large part of that had to do with me having the old Red Ryder BB gun and my, my trusty dog and my acres and acres of field right by my house that I could go wander around in anytime I wanted to. It was absolutely phenomenal. I will never forget those days growing up. And then shortly after that, we moved out to a small farm out in a place called Hooper, Utah. And that was a whole nother experience, living on a farm versus living next to a whole bunch of fields. We went from having nothing to having horses to goats. And I think we had cows. And I think at one point we had a couple pigs and just stuff like that. Lots of dogs. We had dogs and horses. It was basically a dog and horse farm, I guess you'd say. So that was the portion of my life that I found very interesting, that sticks out in my mind after all these years. I'm almost 40 years old, so it's been a while, and that's something that'll stick with me forever. And I think if you get kids interested in stuff like that early enough, and you get them to the point where they're really enjoying being outside and not necessarily just being outside because they're forced to be out there or out there playing on the playground that they've played on 1,000 times. Man, go get them kids a Red Ryder BB gun and have them start doing some. My kids go out and do some competitions out in the backyard at our house. Granted, we live on a couple acres, so it's a little bit different. But anybody that wanted to could set up a rather safe, quick, and easy way for the kids to shoot and do some target practice with a Red Ryder BB gun. It's something you should absolutely go and do. You should for sure at least give it a try. Like I said, I know that if you set ground rules, you're going to be a lot more efficient on possibly avoiding maybe some of the neighbors, windows getting shot out and whatnot, with a good stern chit chat before you just let them run loose with their Red Ryder BB gun. But I honestly think that was a huge portion of my life that I spent wandering around just out in the field with a dog on my BB gun. I'd sit back and just stare up at the clouds, and I'd see all kinds of different animals, all different birds, and there's foxes out there, and there was muskrat, and you'd see, just all kinds of stuff. It was awesome. Just sitting there being sneaky. I remember eating an apple underneath a bush one day, and sitting there watching ducks playing in the canal that was in front of me. It was this big chunk of water that was still water, and I remember sitting there watching those ducks playing around, and all of a sudden you'd sneak over just a little bit farther, and you'd look down, like I would lunge forward, just kind of hunch forward a little bit, and I could see farther down on the water, and there's a cat trying to sneak its way up the canal, trying to come snag one of these ducks. And I don't know whether it was trying to get to maybe one of their babies or something. I don't know. They had ducklings back then, if that was the time of year is what I meant to say. But I don't know what it was doing, but just stuff like that, man, just to get them out and play. And that's where it's at. That's honestly where my memory started. So you can't go wrong with the Red Ryder BB gun. It's just a fantastic thing to have. I really think that it keeps kids out of trouble. The other thing that really helped for me was I had, in that same canal I was telling you about a minute ago, there was lots of fish, and I had a fishing pole, but it was such a crappy fishing pole that I believe I got it for free. It was the first one I ever had. I remember it having some trouble with the reel, and the reel didn't want to work that well. It was like I said, it was old, and it was free. If I remember correctly, I got it from one of the neighbor guys, who was an avid fisherman. He was fishing all the time, and I showed a lot of interest in his boat, and I think he just handed it to me one day. It wasn't working, so I would go over to the bridge, and I'd pull out a bunch of line, and I'd wrap it around my hand and kind of make a whole bunch of little like loops, and I'd grab it in my hand and just toss it down there as far as I could and catch these little carp and these little chubs that were in the canal. I thought that was so neat, and I thought that it was just something that I was just never ever going to get sick of, and I was right. I never got sick of it. But the funny part is I started going out there by myself, and then people would drive by, and their kids that are my age or whatever would see me down there, and next thing I know, I would be going by with my parents to go over to my grandma's house or something down the street, and there would be kids down there fishing as well. Like, they saw me down there, so next thing you know, they're down there fishing. And now that same little creek, stream, canal, whatever you want to call it, it runs into a pond that one of the cities, Roy City, has made into a pond that they've released live fish in there, and you can go catch trout and catfish and all kinds of fun stuff. It's just the way that things work out is just amazing. If you just go outside and give it a try, it's just something that's you're not going to experience. You're not going to see any elk or any deer or a wild fish or a wild animal of any sort sitting on the couch. You can, I guess, if you're watching maybe National Geographic or something, but that's not no way to live. I think we need to get away from the TVs and the telephones a little bit more. Get to the point where we're doing a little bit more outdoors. So I just think that that's just the way that it needs to go. I guess the other part of it that I would love to talk about is fishing. I teach fly fishing, as I had mentioned before a little while ago, and I really, really enjoy it. I love fly fishing. I got my very first fly fishing pole. I don't know if you can see up here on the wall. There's a few different kinds of fly fishing poles. There's one that's just no reel whatsoever, and that's just because I didn't put a reel on it, and it's just a really old pole. I like old stuff. These are old decoys. These are old duck decoys right here. But I really like fly fishing, and I got my first fly fishing pole when I was 8 years old, and it was because of when I was down there at that canal, throwing my handful of fishing line down the way, catching fish. That was a big eye-opener to me because all I knew at that point was to use worms and to go, do stuff like that. But I was using a fly when I was doing that because I was fishing on the little bridge that's underneath the river or underneath the road right there where the river, the little creek runs through. And that made me think, well, if I can catch this many fish on a fly down here at the little canal that's right by my house, why can't I catch a whole bunch up in the mountains? So I remember my folks would say, all right, it's Sunday, we got to go visit Grandma Martha. And Grandma Martha was up in Morgan. And up in Morgan, Utah, there's a couple different creeks that run right in front of her house. Within 100 feet was one, and the other one literally ran right in front of her house. And I would take my fly fishing pole and go up there, and I didn't know how to cast it, so I would find fish and I would just sneak up and drop it in front of them, and that's how I got used to using the reel and fishing that way was just amazing. You catch a 6-inch fish, it feels like it weighs 1.5 pounds on a fly pole. It was awesome. It really got me attracted to fishing. I just fell in love with it, and it's something that I'll never ever get away from. I've got a tattoo of a fly fisherman on my back. I mean, it's something that's never going to be not right there with me. I love ice fishing. I love me and the kids have recently taken up something that's really fun. You can get some extremely accurate and very, very fun to shoot BB guns. I mean, you can even go to your local Walmart and snag you up a BB gun. But I think that if everybody got into something that's just outdoors, I think that's the way to be. And that's basically what we're going to cover on this podcast for Fishing and Fun. We're going to have some more episodes later on in the future where we'll have some products that I've been spending years researching. And, I don't want to say anything about anything as far as a product is concerned that isn't something that I wouldn't back up and use myself or have used myself. And other than that, we got one section of it that we're going to call Your Family Eats What. And we're going to have people, send us emails, or if they're local or if they want to come into town and they want to come and do the podcast and tell us about the way that they cook their fish. Or, we can go out back and do it, or, on the smoker or whatever. We can go out. We cook a lot in the spring, the summer, and the fall, especially in the summer and the fall. We cook a lot on a little fireplace that we've got out back. It's just, I don't live in the 100% in the country. There's cars that drive by. You can hear it. But to be able to just sit back by that fire and enjoy family time, it's just, there's nothing that compares to it. I don't think anyways. So we'll have a lot of giveaways. We will have, we're just going to do nothing. Everything that we're going to do is just nothing but fun. Fishing and fun. So we've got some kind of fancy go-karts for the kids. We're going to get some video of that going on, and just what kind of fun you can have. And I'm going to openly throw out an open invitation to anybody that would like to do a phone call or that would like to send us an email and come in, or anybody that lives, locally in Idaho, Wyoming, or Utah that would like to come, that it's, not too inconvenient for you. And come on to the podcast. You have a product that you made or an invention or something? Cool. Come on, let's talk about it. You want to just come on and tell us about the way that you got into the outdoors, or the way that you got into the love of being outdoors? Come do it. Come on. That's awesome. Let's do it. Let's figure out how you got to where you're at right now. And it's funny, you see guys walking around with camouflage from head to toe. You don't even have to ask that guy if he's a hunter. He's for sure a hunter. He enjoys the outdoors. Probably a happy guy. And I just think that it's something that everybody should be introduced to. So don't forget to find us on all of the different media spots, all the iTunes and the what have yous. And I'll let Zach finish up from here and tell you exactly where to find us at and how to get a hold of all of our information And thanks for your time. And I look forward to, I don't know, hopefully hundreds and thousands maybe in the future of different times having a little chit chat with y'all. And I enjoyed it. Cheers.
So you can go ahead and check us out on Spotify and iTunes here shortly. If you need to contact us, you can use the Contact Us page on our website, Telemedia. Make sure to please cite the podcast you are coming from so we know how to accurately respond to your email. Check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Telemedia and at Fishin' in Fun Pod on Twitter, and at Fishin' in Fun Podcast on Instagram. Make sure to check out our apparel store on Etsy. You can also find a link to that on our website, telemedia.com. You guys have a good night, and we'll see y'all later.